The alarm shattered the silence of the monitoring station at precisely 03:14, jolting Dr. Emma Hayes from her half-doze at the communications console. Her cup of synthetic coffee tipped precariously as she straightened, blinking away fatigue. The deep space monitoring station orbiting Earth was rarely so dramatic in its notifications. "What is it?" she mumbled, fingers already dancing across the holographic interface. The signal analysis matrices unfolded before her eyes, revealing patterns unlike anything in their extensive database. Lieutenant Jia Patel's dark eyes widened as she abandoned her own station to peer over Emma's shoulder. "That can't be right," she whispered, voice barely audible over the persistent alarm. "The signal strength is off the charts, and the pattern. It's not random, it's structured." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs as she isolated the frequency. "It's directed at us, specifically." Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. Humanity had spent centuries scanning the cosmos for signs of intelligent life, cataloging the background radiation of the universe, identifying the difference between natural phenomena and artificial signals. But nothing like this had ever penetrated Earth's detection grid. Captain Rick Morrison strode onto the bridge, his weathered face set in hard lines. The former military officer had transitioned to civilian oversight of the station 5 years ago, but he still carried himself with the rigid posture of a soldier. "Report," he demanded, planting his palms on the console beside Emma. "Sir, we're receiving a directed transmission of artificial origin," Emma replied, professionalism overriding her shock. "It's being broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously, with mathematical patterns that suggest—" "Suggest what, Dr. Hayes?" Emma swallowed hard. "Intelligence, sir. Non-human intelligence." The next 12 hours passed in a blur of activity. As Earth's foremost xenocommunications specialist, Emma found herself at the center of humanity's first confirmed contact with extraterrestrial life. The signal, once decoded, contained a simple but unmistakable message. "Help us!" The message repeated, accompanied by navigational coordinates and rudimentary images depicting a star system under assault. The transmission identified the senders as the Vayans, a peaceful species whose home system was being invaded by an aggressive force they called the Krugan Empire. "They're reaching out to us specifically," Emma explained to the hastily assembled Emergency Defense Council in Washington. Her voice echoed in the cavernous chamber as government officials and military leaders watched her with a mixture of fascination and suspicion. "The transmission contains detailed information about Earth and humanity. They've been observing us for some time." Admiral Kate Sullivan, the imposing head of Earth's United Defense Force, leaned forward in her chair. "And they've chosen now to make contact? When they need our help? That seems convenient." "The timing is certainly strategic," Emma conceded. "But the data suggests the Vayans are a non-aggressive species. They lack significant military capabilities. The Krugans, on the other hand—" She gestured to the holographic display, showing the angular, menacing silhouettes of Krugan warships. "They appear to be expansionists, conquerors." "What exactly are the Vayans asking for?" President Reyes asked, her expression carefully neutral. "Military intervention," Emma replied simply. "They believe humans possess the combat capabilities and tactical innovation that their culture lacks. According to their message, we have a reputation in this sector of space." "A reputation?" General Marcus Webb echoed incredulously. "We haven't even left our solar system in force." "Apparently, we're known as Deathworlders," Emma said, allowing herself a small, ironic smile. "Earth's high gravity, atmospheric composition, and geological instability have produced organisms, us, with physical resilience and adaptive capabilities that are rare in the galaxy. The Vayans believe these traits make us natural warriors." An uncomfortable silence settled over the room as humanity's leaders contemplated this unexpected perspective on their species. So we're being asked to fight someone else's war, Admiral Sullivan summarized bluntly. Or, President Reyes countered, we're being offered an opportunity to make first contact and establish humanity's place in a galactic community. She turned to Emma. What do you recommend, Dr. Hayes? Emma hesitated, acutely aware that her answer could shape the course of human history. I believe we should respond, she said finally. At minimum, we should gather more information. But if the Vian's account is accurate, and if the Krugans are as expansionist as they appear, ignoring the situation may only delay an inevitable confrontation. The debate raged for days. Military strategists argued that exposure to a hostile galactic power posed an unacceptable risk. Diplomats insisted that forging an alliance with the Vians could provide crucial protection and technological exchange. Ethicists questioned the morality of military intervention in an alien conflict. Through it all, Emma found herself increasingly convinced that humanity could not afford to remain isolated. When the decision finally came, it was decisive. Earth would respond to the Vian call for help. The Retribution Strike Group, 3 of humanity's most advanced warships, would make the journey to the Vian system under the command of Commander Lisa Torres, a decorated veteran known for her tactical brilliance and unwavering moral compass. To Emma's surprise, Admiral Sullivan summoned her to a private meeting 2 days before the mission's launch. Dr. Hayes, the Admiral began without preamble, Commander Torres has requested that you join the Retribution as head of communications. Emma blinked in surprise. Me? I'm an analyst, not a field officer. You're the foremost expert on the Vian language and communication patterns, Sullivan countered, and you've shown good judgment throughout this crisis. The commander believes your presence could be crucial to successful diplomatic relations. Emma hesitated, doubt gnawing at her confidence. She had spent her career in laboratories and monitoring stations, not on the front lines of potential interspecies conflict. I'm not sure I'm the right person for this, Admiral. Sullivan's expression softened slightly. None of us are sure about any of this, Doctor. We're all stepping into the unknown, but sometimes that's where we find our greatest purpose. After a sleepless night of consideration, Emma accepted the assignment. As she packed her belongings in her small apartment, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window, dark circles under her eyes, worry lines creasing her forehead. Was she making a terrible mistake? Or was this the moment her entire career had been building toward? Across the city, Captain Rick Morrison was having similar doubts. Recruited to serve as Torres's second-in-command, the veteran found himself confronting memories he'd long suppressed. The brutal colonial wars on Mars, the pirate suppression campaigns in the asteroid belt. He had seen enough of humanity's capacity for violence to last several lifetimes. We're sending humans to fight another species battle, he muttered to himself as he polished his service medals, relics of conflicts he'd hoped to forget. What does that make us? Mercenaries? Saviors? Or just another set of conquerors? The question hung unanswered in the air as Earth prepared for its first venture into galactic politics. The Retribution Strike Group departed Earth orbit on a clear Tuesday morning, humanity's hopes and fears traveling with them into the depths of space. The 3 warships, UES Retribution, UES Vigilance, and UES Defiance, represented the pinnacle of human military technology, sleek vessels bristling with railguns, missile platforms, and energy weapons. Commander Lisa Torres stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching Earth shrink to a pale blue dot on the view screen. At 42, Torres had earned her command through a combination of brilliant tactical thinking and uncompromising ethics. She had fought in the Mars conflicts and led the defense against the Europa separatists, earning decorations for minimizing civilian casualties while achieving decisive victories. Preparing for FTL jump, Commander, her navigation officer announced, coordinates locked on the Vian system. Torres nodded, her expression betraying none of the apprehension she felt. Proceed, Lieutenant. Let's see if these alien FTL calculations actually work. The human fleet had been equipped with modified drive systems based on the technical specifications provided in the Veyan transmission. The technology promised to collapse space-time in ways that Earth scientists had only theorized about, allowing the strike group to cross vast interstellar distances in a matter of weeks rather than centuries. Jump commencing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. The stars blurred into streaks of light, and Torres felt a momentary sensation of being stretched impossibly thin before snapping back into shape. The bridge crew gasped collectively as the view screen adjusted to show their new surroundings, not the empty void of space, but a swirling tunnel of blue shifted light. FTL transit successful, the navigation officer reported, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. Estimated arrival at Veyan system, 18 days. Torres allowed herself a small smile. Well done. It seems our new friends weren't exaggerating about their travel technology. She turned to where Emma Hayes stood, white-knuckled, at the communication station. Dr. Hayes, please transmit our status to Earth and prepare a message for the Veyan Council. Let them know we're on our way. As Emma composed the transmission, she marveled at how quickly the impossible had become routine. Just weeks ago, the existence of alien life had been theoretical. Now, she was traveling faster than light toward an alien civilization in need of rescue. The 18-day journey gave the crew time to prepare and to worry. Chief Engineer Tom Bradley worked tirelessly to understand the alien technology that now powered their ships, muttering about impossible physics and violations of known laws. General Webb and Colonel Dave Park ran the ground forces through endless combat simulations, trying to anticipate how Krugan tactics might differ from human warfare. Lieutenant Amy Zhang developed new fleet formations designed to maximize the impact of their small force against the reportedly massive Krugan armada. And Emma Hayes immersed herself in Veyan culture, studying the extensive data provided in their transmission. The Veyans appeared to be a highly advanced civilization, with a biology utterly unlike humanity's, crystalline-based rather than carbon-based, with sensory organs that perceived the world through electrical fields and vibrations rather than sight and sound. Their society emphasized harmony, cooperation, and intellectual development, with little concept of warfare or aggression. They're essentially pacifists, Emma explained during a briefing with the command staff. Their entire civilization has evolved without significant predators or resource competition. They have defensive capabilities, but they've never developed offensive weapons or military strategy. Then how have they survived in a galaxy that apparently includes species like the Krugans? Morrison asked skeptically. Isolation and technological superiority, Emma replied. Until recently, their advanced detection systems and FTL capabilities allowed them to avoid contact with aggressive species. But the Krugans have somehow acquired similar technology and tracked them to their home system. Torres frowned thoughtfully. So we're not just providing military support. We're teaching them how to fight. Essentially, yes, Emma confirmed. They've observed human conflicts remotely and believe our species possesses both the physical capabilities and the ethical framework to help them without simply conquering them ourselves. That's a lot of faith to place in a species they've never actually met, Morrison muttered. Emma met his gaze steadily. It's a measure of their desperation, she said quietly. According to their transmissions, the Krugans have already destroyed 3 of their outer colonies. They're facing extinction. Captain, they have little choice but to trust us. The tension in the room was palpable as humanity's representatives contemplated the responsibility they had undertaken. They were no longer simply explorers or even rescuers. They were potentially the deciding factor in an alien species' survival. On the 18th day of transit, the human fleet emerged from FTL into the Veyan system. The sight that greeted them on the view screens left even the most hardened officers speechless. The Veyan homeworld hung in space like an impossible jewel. A planet where the continents themselves appeared to be composed of vast crystalline structures that caught the light of the system's blue star and refracted it in dazzling patterns. Orbiting the planet were graceful structures that resembled enormous snowflakes, each one a space station or habitat many kilometers across. And at the edges of the system, barely visible at extreme sensor range, lurked the angular, dark shapes of Krugan warships, hundreds of them, forming a blockade that slowly tightened around the Veyan homeworld. "My God," Torres breathed, momentarily abandoning her professional detachment. "It's beautiful. And those are—" "The Krugan fleet," Morrison confirmed grimly. "I count over 300 vessels. Commander, we're outnumbered 100 to 1. Torres straightened her shoulders, her moment of awe replaced by resolute determination. "Numbers aren't everything, Captain. Dr. Hayes, open a channel to the Veyan leadership. Let them know their Deathworlders have arrived." Within hours, a delegation from the Veyan Council arrived, aboard a small transport vessel that moved with fluid grace through space. Emma watched through the observation window as the alien ship docked with the Retribution, her heart pounding with a mixture of professional excitement and personal trepidation. The Veyans who emerged from the airlock were unlike anything humanity had imagined. Standing approximately 2 meters tall, their bodies resembled elongated humanoid forms, composed of translucent, crystalline material that shifted colors with their movements. Where a human would have a face, they possessed a complex arrangement of sensory nodes that pulsed with soft light. They moved with a fluid grace that made them appear almost weightless. "Welcome aboard the UES Retribution," Commander Torres said formally, stepping forward to greet the aliens. "I am Commander Lisa Torres of Earth's United Defense Force." The foremost Veyan inclined its upper body in what appeared to be a gesture of respect. When it spoke, the sound was like wind chimes and flowing water, utterly incomprehensible to human ears. Emma activated the translation device she had developed based on the Veyan transmission data. "Greetings, defenders of the Crystal Path." The device translated. "I am Speaker Nera of the Veyan Council. With me is Elder Kale, our most revered strategist." The speaker gestured to the slightly taller Veyan beside it, whose crystalline form shimmered with deeper blues and purples. Elder Kale stepped forward, its movements conveying a dignity that transcended species barriers. "We have watched your kind from afar for many cycles." The translation came. "We had hoped to make contact in times of peace and learning. Instead, we meet in the shadow of extinction. We received your distress call and we're here to help," Torres replied simply. "But we need to understand exactly what we're facing. What can you tell us about the Krugan forces?" The meeting moved to the Retribution's conference room, where the Veyans projected three-dimensional images of the Krugan fleet and detailed the history of the conflict. The Krugans, it emerged, were a reptilian species with a rigid hierarchical society built around conquest and resource extraction. They had discovered the Veyan system 6 months earlier and immediately recognized the value of the crystal-based technology and the mineral wealth of the Veyan worlds. "Their leader is War Chief Gorax," Elder Kale explained, projecting an image of a massive reptilian figure with scarred, armored hide and eyes like burning coals. "He commands absolute loyalty from his forces and has never been defeated in battle." "Until now," Torres said with quiet confidence. She turned to her officers. "Lieutenant Zhang, what's your assessment of their fleet positioning?" Lieutenant Amy Zhang, the Retribution's tactical officer, studied the holographic display with narrowed eyes. "Their formation is methodical, but predictable. They're maintaining a classic encirclement pattern, tightening gradually to minimize the energy expenditure of their engines. It suggests they're confident. They don't feel any need for complex maneuvers or contingency positioning." "Overconfidence," Morrison observed. "That's something we can use." What about their weapon systems? Torres asked, turning to the Vayans. Energy-based. Primarily. Speaker Nera replied, the translation device rendering its musical tones into clipped human speech. Their shields are formidable, designed to disperse energy attacks. Their tactics rely on overwhelming force rather than subtlety. Chief Engineer Bradley frowned at the technical specifications displayed on the hologram. Our weapons might not be effective against those shields, he warned. They're calibrated to frequencies we don't typically employ. Can you adapt our systems? Torres asked. Bradley ran a hand through his thinning hair. Given time, yes. But we're talking about fundamental retuning of our entire offensive capability. It will take days, at minimum. The Krugans will not give us days, Elder Kale said solemnly. Their pattern suggests they will launch their final assault within the next solar rotation. Torres studied the tactical display in silence, her mind working through possibilities and probabilities. Then we need to buy time, she said finally. Dr. Hayes, can you open a direct channel to War Chief Gorax's vessel? Emma blinked in surprise. Yes, Commander, but... Good. Prepare to transmit. Torres straightened her uniform and fixed her gaze on the spot where the camera would capture her image. Let's introduce ourselves to the neighborhood bully. War Chief Gorax's face filled the view screen, reptilian, scarred, and radiating a cold intelligence that belied the brutish appearance. His scales were a deep crimson, marked with ceremonial patterns in gold and black that Emma suspected indicated rank and battle honors. I am War Chief Gorax of the Krugan Empire, he growled, the translation software struggling to match the guttural tones of his language. Identify yourselves, intruders. Commander Torres stood tall, her expression betraying none of the anxiety she surely felt at confronting an alien warlord. I am Commander Lisa Torres of the United Earthship Retribution. We have come in response to the Vayan request for assistance. Gorax's eyes narrowed, vertical pupils contracting to thin slits. The crystal folk summoned you? Interesting. Your vessels are unfamiliar to us. What species calls itself Earth? We are humans, Torres replied. And we are here to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this conflict. A rumbling sound emerged from Gorax's throat. Laughter. Emma realized with a chill. Negotiate, the warlord repeated. The Krugan Empire does not negotiate. We conquer. We claim. That is our way. Then perhaps it's time to reconsider your ways, Torres said evenly. We propose a 48-hour cessation of hostilities to discuss terms that could benefit both Krugans and Vayans. Gorax leaned closer to the screen, his massive head filling the frame. You have 3 ships, Commander Torres, 3 against my 300. What possible leverage do you believe you possess in this situation? Torres smiled thinly. Quality over quantity, War Chief. But if you prefer a demonstration to diplomacy, we're prepared to provide that as well. For a long moment, Gorax stared at her, his alien expression unreadable to human eyes. Then he bared rows of serrated teeth in what might have been a smile of his own. You have courage, human. I will grant you 24 of your hours. Use them wisely. The transmission cut abruptly. Well, Morrison said into the silence that followed. That bought us some time. Now what? Torres turned to her officers, her expression grim but determined. Now we prepare to fight a battle we cannot possibly win through conventional means. Bradley, get to work on those weapons modifications. Zhang, I want unconventional tactics, something the Krugans won't have encountered before. Dr. Hayes, work with the Vayans to identify any weaknesses in Krugan communication or command structure. She paused, looking each of them in the eye. We came here to help the Vayans. And that's exactly what we're going to do, by showing the Krugans that sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the most ships. The next 24 hours passed in a frenzy of activity. Chief Engineer Bradley and his team worked without rest to recalibrate the fleet's weapon systems, incorporating Veyan crystal technology to create frequencies that could penetrate Krugan shields. Lieutenant Zhang and her tactical team developed a battle plan that violated every conventional rule of space combat, relying on precise coordination and split-second timing rather than overwhelming firepower. And Emma Hayes found herself in the unexpected role of cultural interpreter, bridging the vast philosophical gap between the peaceful Veyans and the warrior humans who had come to their defense. "I do not understand," Speaker Nera confessed as they walked through the Retribution's hydroponics garden, a space Emma had chosen for its calming influence. "Your species values peace, yet you excel at warfare. You cherish life, yet you have developed countless ways to end it. This contradiction troubles us." Emma considered her response carefully. Humans evolved on a world where survival often meant fighting against predators, natural disasters, and eventually each other. But our capacity for violence exists alongside our capacity for compassion. We fight when necessary to protect what we value. "And you value us?" Elder Kale asked, joining them among the greenery. "Though we have only just met." "We value life," Emma replied simply. "And we recognize in the Veyans a civilization worth preserving." The Veyans' crystalline forms shimmered with colors that Emma was beginning to recognize as emotional indicators. In this case, a deep blue of contemplation tinged with the gold of gratitude. "There is wisdom in your words, Dr. Hayes," Elder Kale said. "Perhaps our peoples have more to teach each other than we realized." Their philosophical discussion was interrupted by the harsh blare of battle station's alarm. Emma's communicator activated immediately. "Hayes, to the bridge!" came Torres's terse command. "The Krugans are moving!" When Emma arrived on the bridge, the tactical display showed the Krugan fleet breaking its encirclement formation and accelerating toward the Veyan homeworld. "So much for 24 hours, Morrison muttered. Torres's expression was grim, but unsurprised. They never intended to negotiate. They were just buying time to position their forces. She turned to Lieutenant Zhang. "Is your crazy plan ready, Lieutenant?" Zhang nodded, her face set with determination. "As ready as it'll ever be, Commander." "And our weapons?" Torres asked, glancing at Chief Engineer Bradley. "Modified and operational," Bradley confirmed. "But they're untested against actual Krugan shields. We're working on theory and simulation here." Torres took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as she made her decision. "Then, it's time to test them in practice. Battle stations. Alert vigilance and defiance to assume formation Delta. We're going to show War Chief Gorax why humans have a reputation as Deathworlders." The human fleet moved into position, the three ships forming a triangular formation that placed them directly between the advancing Krugan armada and the Veyan homeworld. On the bridge of the Retribution, Emma watched with a mixture of awe and terror as hundreds of enemy vessels bore down on their tiny defensive force. "Open a channel to all ships," Torres commanded. "Krugan and Veyan alike." Emma complied, her fingers steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. "Channel open, Commander." Torres stood tall, her voice clear and unwavering as she addressed both allies and enemies. "This is Commander Lisa Torres of the United Earthship Retribution. To the Krugan fleet, your unprovoked aggression against the Veyan people ends today. Withdraw your forces immediately, or face the consequences of your actions." Gorax's laughter rumbled through the speakers. Bold words from a species about to be eradicated. "Commander, your gesture is admirable but futile. Surrender now, and I may spare your lives as a recognition of your courage." "I am afraid we'll have to decline that generous offer," Torres replied coolly. "Humans don't surrender to bullies." She cut the transmission and turned to her bridge crew. "Execute Operation Gravity Well." Lieutenant Zhang transmitted the coded command to the Vigilance and Defiance, setting in motion the most audacious tactical maneuver in human military history. The three ships accelerated suddenly toward the heart of the Krugen formation, confounding the enemy commanders, who had expected them to maintain a defensive position. "They're adjusting to intercept," Morrison reported, watching the tactical display. "Just as predicted." "Maintain course," Torres ordered calmly. "Time to detonation?" 30 seconds, Zhang replied, monitoring the specialized gravity devices they had deployed during their approach to the Vayan system, devices now activated by remote command. The Krugen fleet surged forward, eager to engage the seemingly suicidal human ships. Energy weapons flared across the void, most missing their rapidly moving targets. Those that connected splashed harmlessly against the modified shields of the human vessels. 10 seconds, Zhang counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Across 6 strategic points surrounding the Krugen fleet, the gravity devices detonated simultaneously. Each created a localized distortion in space-time, not powerful enough to form an actual black hole, but sufficient to generate competing gravitational forces that played havoc with the Krugen ship's navigation and weapons targeting. "Now," Torres commanded, "execute multi-vector assault." The human ships split apart, each accelerating along a different trajectory through the suddenly chaotic Krugen formation. Their modified weapons fired with surgical precision, targeting command vessels and communication nodes identified by Vayan intelligence. On the Retribution's bridge, Emma watched in astonishment as the massive Krugen fleet, thrown into disarray by the unexpected gravitational distortions, struggled to coordinate a response to the lightning-fast human assault. Ships collided with one another. Friendly fire caused cascading shield failures, and communication breakdowns prevented effective countermaneuvers. "Gorax's flagship identified," Zhang reported triumphantly. "Sending coordinates to all ships." The 3 human vessels converged on the massive command ship at the heart of the Krugen fleet. Their combined firepower, concentrating on a single shield segment, identified as structurally weaker than the others. For several tense seconds, it seemed the shield would hold. Then, with a flash of energy visible even through space, it collapsed. "Direct hit!" Bradley shouted, as the Retribution's main guns poured destructive energy into the suddenly vulnerable Krugen flagship. "We've disabled their primary power core." Throughout the Krugen fleet, confusion turned to panic as War Chief Gorax's vessel listed helplessly in space, its weapons and propulsion systems offline. Without central command, the rigid Krugen hierarchy faltered, individual ship captains hesitating to take initiative in the absence of orders from their supreme commander. "The Krugen formation is breaking apart," Morrison reported, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. "They're retreating to minimum safe distance and regrouping." Torres allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. "Open a channel to War Chief Gorax." This time, the face that appeared on the view screen was markedly different. The confident arrogance replaced by barely contained fury, and, beneath it, a grudging respect. "You fight, unusually, human," Gorax growled, his flagship visibly damaged behind him. "No species has breached my flagship's shields in 30 years of conquest." "Consider it a demonstration," Torres replied evenly. "One that can be repeated if necessary. Are you ready to discuss terms now, War Chief?" Gorax's vertical pupils narrowed to slits. "You have won a single engagement, Commander Torres. I command hundreds of ships. This war is far from over." "It doesn't have to be a war at all," Torres countered. "The galaxy is vast. Surely there are resources to be claimed without resorting to the extinction of an entire species." "The Krugen Empire does not." "Negotiate. Yes, you mentioned that," Torres interrupted. "But the Krugen Empire has also never encountered humans before. Perhaps it's time for new protocols." Before Gorax could respond, Elder Kale stepped into view beside Torres, its crystalline form pulsing with determined purpose. "War Chief Gorax," the Vayan said, the translator rendering its musical tones into clear speech. "There is another factor you should consider. The crystal folk speak of factors, Gorax scoffed. What could you possibly offer that would interest the Empire? Information, Elder Kale replied simply, about the Void Hunters. The change in Gorax's demeanor was immediate and dramatic. His scales seemed to pale, and his posture stiffened noticeably. The Void Hunters are a myth, he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. They are quite real, Elder Kale countered. And they are coming. Our long-range sensors detected their approach 3 cycles ago. We estimate their arrival in this sector within the next solar year. Emma glanced at Torres in confusion. This was the first either of them had heard about these Void Hunters. The commander gave an almost imperceptible shrug, clearly as mystified as Emma, but willing to let the Vayan elder continue. If this is true, Gorax said slowly, it concerns all species in this sector. Precisely, Elder Kale agreed. Which is why we propose an alliance, Vayan, Krugan, and human, against the common threat. For a long moment, Gorax was silent, his alien features unreadable to human eyes. Finally, he spoke. I will come aboard your vessel with a small delegation to discuss these allegations. But be warned, if this is a deception. It is not, Elder Kale assured him. The threat is real, and it is greater than any conflict between our peoples. As the transmission ended, Torres turned to Elder Kale with raised eyebrows. Void Hunters? Is this a real threat, or a diplomatic fiction? The Vayan's crystalline form shimmered with colors that Emma recognized as indicators of grave concern. All too real, Commander. We detected their energy signature at the edge of our long-range sensors. We had hoped to have more time to prepare, but the Krugan blockade accelerated our timeline. And what exactly are these Void Hunters? Morrison asked skeptically. A species from beyond the galactic rim, Elder Kale explained. They do not conquer or colonize in the conventional sense. They consume entire worlds, stripped of all resources, all life. They leave nothing behind but barren rock. The human officers exchanged troubled glances as the implications sank in. And you believe an alliance with the Krugans is our best defense? Torres asked. An alliance with all spacefaring species in this sector, Elder Kale corrected, beginning with humans and Krugans. Torres nodded slowly, her tactical mind already shifting from the immediate conflict to this new, potentially greater threat. Well, Dr. Hayes, she said with a wry smile, it seems your job as a diplomat is just beginning. Hours later, the Retribution's conference room hosted an unprecedented gathering. Human officers, Vayan elders, and Krugan warriors, seated together around a single table. The tension in the room was palpable, centuries of Krugan military doctrine colliding with Vayan pacifism and human pragmatism. War Chief Gorax dominated his side of the table, his massive frame dwarfing even the tallest humans. His scales still bore the scorch marks from the battle, and his eyes constantly swept the room with predatory assessment. Show me this evidence of the Void Hunters, he demanded without preamble. Elder Kale activated a holographic display at the center of the table, revealing long-range sensor data and astronomical observations. Here, the Vayan said, indicating a pattern of darkness moving against the starfield. Their fleet travels within a self-generated void that absorbs all radiation, hence their name. Gorax studied the data with narrowed eyes. How many vessels? We estimate between 5,000 and 7,000, Elder Kale replied, sending a shock through the room. Each approximately the size of your flagship. Even Gorax could not conceal his dismay at these numbers. And their weapons, their tactics. Unknown, Elder Kale admitted. No species that has engaged them directly has survived to report. What we know comes from long-distance observation and the ruins they leave behind. Commander Torres leaned forward, her focus intense. Then, we need to gather intelligence before they arrive. Joint reconnaissance missions. Information sharing between our species. Agreed, Gorax said, surprising everyone with his quick assent. The Krugan Empire has not survived for millennia by ignoring existential threats. He turned his reptilian gaze to Torres. Your tactics against my fleet were effective. Unorthodox, but effective. The Empire could benefit from such innovation. And the Vayans? Torres prompted. What of your campaign against them? Gorax made a dismissive gesture with one clawed hand. A suspended operation. In light of this new information, the Crystal Folk have technology that may prove useful against the Void Hunters. It would be inefficient to destroy them before extracting that value. It wasn't exactly a peace declaration, Emma noted, but it was a start. The Krugan warlord was pragmatic enough to recognize that survival took precedence over conquest, at least temporarily. We propose the construction of a joint facility, Speaker Nera said, joining the conversation. A station at the midpoint between our territories where all three species can coordinate our response to the Void Hunter threat. A neutral ground, Torres nodded approvingly. With shared technology and defensive capabilities. And what will you call this? Cooperative venture, Gorax asked, the concept clearly foreign to Krugan thinking. Torres considered for a moment, then smiled. Harmony Station, she said. A symbol of what we can achieve together, despite our differences. Gorax's expression suggested he found the name overly sentimental, but he nodded, nevertheless. The Empire will contribute resources and personnel to this Harmony Station, and we will share our military expertise with the Vayans, under human supervision, he added, glancing at Torres with what might have been respect. Then we are agreed, Elder Kale said, its crystalline form glowing with cautious optimism. A three-species alliance against the Void Hunters, beginning with the construction of Harmony Station. As the meeting concluded and the various delegations filed out, Emma found herself standing beside Commander Torres at the observation window, watching the stars beyond. Do you think it will work? Emma asked quietly. This alliance between species so fundamentally different? Torres's expression was thoughtful. It has to, she replied simply. The alternative is extinction, for all of us. She smiled suddenly. Besides, if humans can broker peace between crystal philosophers and reptilian conquerors, I'd say we've found our place in the galactic community. As mediators, Emma suggested. As Deathworlders, Torres corrected with a hint of pride. Species who evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day, who learned to adapt and overcome, to fight when necessary and make peace when possible. She gestured toward the stars. Out there, that makes us special. Valuable. Emma nodded slowly, a new understanding dawning. So our greatest strength isn't just our military capability, it's our balance of power and restraint. Exactly, Torres agreed. And that's the lesson we need to teach our new allies. In the months that followed, Harmony Station took shape in the neutral space between Vayan and Krugan territories. A massive structure combining the elegant crystalline architecture of the Vayans with the robust defensive systems of the Krugans and the adaptive, modular design favored by humans. It became a symbol of the unprecedented cooperation between three species who, under different circumstances, might never have found common ground. Emma Hayes, to her own surprise, found herself appointed as the director of the newly established Department of Alien Communication, responsible for facilitating understanding between the Alliance members. Her background in xenocommunications had prepared her for the technical aspects of the role, but nothing could have prepared her for the personal fulfillment she found in helping three vastly different species learn to work together. Captain Rick Morrison, meanwhile, took on the challenging task of training mixed-species defensive units, teaching Vayan technicians to operate weapon systems they had never conceived of, and instructing Krugan warriors in human tactical flexibility. It was slow, frustrating work, but Morrison discovered a patience he hadn't known he possessed, along with a genuine appreciation for the unique strengths each species brought to the Alliance. Commander Torres divided her time between Harmony Station and the growing human presence in the sector. As Earth sent additional ships and personnel to strengthen the Alliance and prepare for the coming threat, she became a respected figure among all three species, admired by the Krugans for her tactical brilliance, appreciated by the Vayans for her ethical leadership, and trusted by her fellow humans to represent their interests in this new galactic community. And War Chief Gorax, perhaps the most transformed of all, began to incorporate human tactical innovations into Krugan military doctrine, recognizing that adaptation could be a form of strength rather than weakness. He remained fierce and ambitious, but his focus shifted from conquest to protection, specifically the protection of Krugan territory against the approaching Void Hunters. 6 months after the battle that had nearly ended in the extinction of the Vayan species, representatives of all three Alliance members gathered on the observation deck of the completed Harmony Station. Through the vast, transparent dome, they could see the combined fleet that now patrolled the sector, Krugan warships alongside Vayan sensor platforms and human tactical vessels, all modified with shared technology to increase their effectiveness. A remarkable achievement, Elder Kale observed, its crystalline form glowing with quiet satisfaction. Three species who had never met now stand united against a common threat. The true test lies ahead, Gorax rumbled, his scarred scales gleaming in the starlight. When the Void Hunters arrive, we will see if this Harmony is strong enough to survive. It will be, Torres said with quiet confidence, because we each bring something essential to this alliance. The Vayans bring wisdom and advanced technology. The Krugans bring strength and determination. And humans bring adaptation. Emma completed the thought. The ability to change, to find new solutions, to evolve. As if in response to her words, an alert sounded throughout the station. Lieutenant Zhang hurried onto the observation deck, her expression grave. "Commander," she reported, "long-range sensors have detected an anomaly at the edge of the sector. It matches the Vayan description of Void Hunter signatures." A hush fell over the gathered representatives as the implications sank in. The threat they had been preparing for was no longer theoretical. It was approaching, perhaps faster than anticipated. Torres straightened her shoulders, her expression resolute as she surveyed the faces around her, human, Vayan, and Krugan, all looking to her for leadership in this moment of truth. "Alert all Alliance vessels," she ordered calmly. "Begin preparations for long-range reconnaissance. It's time to put our cooperation to the test." She turned to Gorax and Elder Kale. "Together, we stand a chance. Divided, we fall." Gorax bared his teeth in what humans now recognized as a gesture of agreement, rather than aggression. "The Krugan Empire stands ready." "As do the Vayan people," Elder Kale affirmed, its crystalline form pulsing with determination. Emma moved to stand beside Torres at the viewport, gazing out at the stars where, somewhere in the darkness, an unimaginable threat approached. Yet, for the first time since the Vayan distress call had shattered the quiet of her monitoring station, she felt something like hope. "One alien SOS woke the sleeping giant," she murmured, almost to herself. "And now the Deathworlders are awake and ready." "Not just awake," Torres corrected with a small smile. "United. And that makes all the difference." As the Alliance members dispersed to their duties, Emma remained at the viewport, watching the combined fleet maneuver in perfect coordination, a testament to what could be achieved when different worlds found common purpose. The stars beyond seemed brighter somehow, full of both peril and promise, a frontier that humanity had only begun to explore. Whatever came next, whether victory against the Void Hunters or challenges yet unimagined, one thing was certain: humanity had found its place in the cosmos. not as conquerors or victims, but as bridges between worlds. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and the universe would never be the same.